Okay, adjusting volume. I guess this review will be a slight Dutch angle, but I've been talking about doing this video for a while, and I'm actually going to get around to doing it, which will be my review of the overall series Modern Family. Now, it's going to be hard for me to review. It would be hard to review a show that's lasted for several seasons, and Modern Family lasted 11. So I think before I get into the review, this might be a pretty long video too, by the way, because I do have a lot to say. But I think the first thing I might want to say is what led me up to becoming a pretty big fan of the show. Um, I remember when the show first came out. It came out around the same time as Glee, and I was watching Glee at the time. I didn't really take Modern Family seriously. I just heard about it. All I knew about it is that one of the characters thought WTF meant why the face. So, Phil. Anyway, um, I never really paid attention to it. And I don't think I started paying attention to it until I think it was 2018 when my dad was watching it late at night and he was laughing hysterically at one of the scenes. And that's kind of what convinced me to and my mom to watch it with them. And we saw the 10th season. Didn't see it in order because we were busy. We saw the 11th season, and on USA on Fridays, they would usually show marathons of several episodes from the series, not in like sequential order, but just at random. And before I started seeing the 10th season, it was really weird how they would jump around to the kids being in high school, then or Manny. It was weird how they jumped from Manny being in middle school, then the next episode they jumped to him being like a 21-year-old man, which was really weird. Anyhow, so on to the show. It should be noted that that the creators of the show and some of the writers were behind Frasier, and you can definitely see it in the writing because a lot of the dialogue has some pretty witty wordplay and some pretty clever one-liners and digs at either the situation that the characters are in or something that the characters witness. And for those of you who don't know, Modern Family is this family sitcom that ran on ABC from 2009 to 2020. So it ended last year, and yeah, I mean it's a great show. I probably should have mentioned the premise of the show before starting to analyze it, but I'm just kind of assuming that most of the people who watch my stuff here have either heard me mention it or have an inkling of what the show's about. So I'm not going to get too bogged down in the plot. So basically, it's three families living in the Los Angeles area, headed up by family patriarch Jay, who has an ex wife, an adult daughter, Claire, who has a husband and three kids, his son, Mitch, who is living with his boyfriend and eventual husband, and raising a daughter together. And Jay remarried to a woman who is about half his age and has a preteen son at the beginning of the series. And the series is basically these three families going through all the ups and downs you would get from kids going through puberty, going through high school, getting through college, just all that kind of stuff that you would imagine. And also, there are some episodes that focus on simply the adult characters, and the show is shot in a mockumentary sort of way where there'll be a scene that plays, and then it'll cut to an interview segment from one of the family members commenting on the situation, kind of like The Office and a bunch of other shows. And I think what really makes the show work well is the charm of the ensemble cast working off each other. Everyone has great chemistry. You know, it seems like you could put any combination of the two characters of that family together, and there would be a good dynamic, witty writing, and some pretty interesting situations for people to be in. And I do like how Chris Lloyd and Stephen Levitan used their own families and their own experiences as the basis for the show. And also, another thing that I really like about the show is that the precocious kid cliche they use to its greatest effect. And I think that's kind of why the show lost some of its edge as the kids got older. Because if you're doing the precocious kid thing, it usually works the younger the kid is. But when the younger the kid is, But once the main kids got to be in high school and college, the wise ass remarks was not as jarring or striking. It was just kind of it goes with territory. But I mean, it still works. What I also like about the show is that some of the jokes that they okay, maybe this won't be a super long video. The jokes in the show, a lot of them, the jokes kind of do good at hitting at PG-13, heavy PG kind of style of humor. And some of the jokes I'm actually surprised they got away with on a TV show because there's a lot of sex jokes. There's moments where several characters get drunk at one point or another and they play it for laughs. And I think one joke that I'm really surprised at that made it into an episode was one where Mitch and Cam are trying to adopt a cat after failing to adopt a kid for the umpteenth time. And Mitchell and Cam have like these two stuffed big plush toys on the roof of their car. And Cam is raving at this adoption hostess about how they're a good family and they have a family friendly environment. And as Mitchell is trying to move the car, it's shaking back and forth. And it looks like the animals are having anal sex. So it's just, oh my God. Family show. Oh, man. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of jokes I'm surprised they got. Another sex joke I'm surprised they even put in the show was when Claire's kids walk in on her and Phil having sex on their anniversary, and they freak out, run away. I mean, you don't see any graphic nudity or anything. There's no censor bar, but it's just like, oh my God, like it. Because I mean, the bed sheet for one thing acts as the censor bar, so we didn't need to see anything blurred out. But that was a pretty funny line. You know, I just love how the kids see that. It cuts to Phil and Claire saying, "Oh, they're probably fine." Then it just cuts to their middle child Alex rubbing soap in her eyes to get the image out of her head. And Luke is like, their youngest son, Luke. What were they doing? Whatever it was, it looked like Dad was winning. And there are a lot of good dynamics with the characters, like with two of the couples, Mitch and Cam, and then Phil and Claire. Both of those couples have the Pritchett kids being a little tough, uptight, and a little more on the logical, safe side. But then their respective spouses help them to enjoy life a little more and be a little more loose. Whereas Mitch and Claire keep Phil and Cam in line before getting too crazy. So that's kind of a good that's a good dynamic. The straight man with the comedic out of the comedic over the top sidekick kind of that's a good dynamic. I also like the chemistry between Sofia Vergara as Gloria and Ed O'Neill as Jay. Now they really do work well together because Jay's kind of in his golden years and Gloria young, full of life, and she's not taking any of Jay's bullshit. And the Jay character, I mean, he's likable enough for you to be okay with him throughout the entirety of the series. But at first, you do see a few bit. I think one of the biggest arcs for Jay throughout the first half of the series is him learning to accept his son's sexuality. And I don't think he fully embraces it and accepts it until the two-part wedding episode, and I think it's the end of season 5. You know, and that's probably one of the sweetest moments when he finally helps Mitch get the wedding he always wanted after being resistant throughout the majority of the past several episodes, or being hesitant to go along with it. Um, when I say resistant, I don't mean he tried to stop them from getting married. He was just resisting the idea. He was resisting the idea of accepting the gay marriage thing. So the show isn't afraid to show its main characters in unsympathetic lights, but they do ultimately learn their lesson. And no matter how chaotic each episode gets, the family members they do come back together and realize, hey, we're still family. We can make this work. We're not going to let anything go out of control. We're going to stick together. And that's probably the sweetest part of his show is that while there are selfish moments, the show never gets to be too mean spirited. It's has a lot of heart. It's very sweet natured, and there's a lot of really cute moments in it. Although I can totally understand why some people would find the pop acoustic guitar soundtrack at the end when they're giving a semi sappy speech on life. Yeah, I can see where that would get annoying, but they don't do it every episode. If they did it every episode, I'd probably be more willing to agree with that criticism. Um, I think my a few of my complaints that I have with the series are kind of small ones, really. One is that the ending of season 11 seemed a little. I feel like the ending of season 10 probably would have been a better way to end the series because it had a great bookend to the way the first episode ended. The 11th season just kind of seemed like it was giving everyone a happy ending for the sake of it. And I mean, yeah, the only part of season 11's ending I didn't really like was Alex getting with the scientist guy, Arvin, at the end. It felt like they were trying to crowbar in a happy ending for her. But yeah, I put spoilers in this title for a reason. So yeah, if you read the sign spoilers and you still watch the rest of this video, that's on you, buddy. Sorry. Um, but yeah, I mean, overall, I think it's a well done show. I think it ended at the right time, and I'll get into that in a second. But yeah, Alex getting her forced happy ending. The fact that season 11 advertised that the main storyline in season 11 would be Haley learning to become a new mom and going through the trials and tribulations of first year. They don't really do that. I mean, they do touch on it after the first episode of season 11, but they don't really go anywhere deep with it. Um, and I also think that season 10 had a stronger ending because Haley gives birth to twins, and Mitch and Cam present the babies to the family the same way they presented Lily at the end of the first episode. So I feel like that was kind of a blown opportunity for a strong ending. But I mean, both seasons 10 and 11 were still pretty good, you know? And I think the show ended at the right time because I think once you have all your main characters leave and go their separate ways, and besides, even before that point, I think the creators said themselves there was really not much else they could do with the series. And I'm happy they ended the show before it became too tedious and long, you know? Because I mean, I think that's the sign of true artists when they realize that their craft has carried themselves to the right point, and they're like, okay, let's stop this before we ruin our own show, and they did it. And Modern Family did a great job at sort of reviving the family sitcom and bringing it into a new generation. There was characters that all had their moments to shine. We avoided most of the bad stereotypes and cliches that we see in TV. They have a gay couple in there that not only adopts a little girl but eventually gets married. So I think that show also, and also with Glee, I think that also kind of helped take away some of the stigma and the ignorance of the audience about homosexuality. They kind of made they kind of made these gay characters human first and made them like real people. They weren't stereotypes. They weren't offensive caricatures. They were real people who happened to be gay. They did not make their homosexuality their entire personality. I mean, with Cam, they kind of did that a little bit, but they never went too far with it. So the show was did a great job at being realistic, but then also throwing some cartoony antics that make it really funny. And I think I've seen most of the episodes several times by now. It's still laugh out loud funny. Um, I would highly recommend watching this show if you haven't seen it already. It's usually on the E channel on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I guess Fridays. But yeah, and it's on Peacock, so if you have that, you can get that or whatever. But it's a very well done show. There's a lot of charm, a lot of heart, and a lot of laughs. And if you can have a sitcom that's sweet, charming, and hilarious, you got yourself one hell of a show. So that's all I gotta say, and I will post my review of The Doors on a Friday probably. And for all my Doors fans, if there are any of you in the subscriber count, I hate to say this, but I'm not gonna give that movie a glowing review because I didn't really think much of it. So, see ya.